Dr. Melissa Carter pressed her eye against the scope and watched the alien camp below. Her hands shook as she counted the tall elven figures moving between the metal cages. Each cage held something dark and massive that moved with deadly grit. Planet Kepler 4, for Tubi had 3 moons and forests that stretched beyond the horizon. Melissa had been studying the local wildlife for 2 years from her research. Station Haven 7, she thought she knew everything dangerous on this world until today. Through her scope she watched an elf with silver hair and pointed ears examine one of the caged creatures. The beast inside was 12 feet tall, with 6 limbs and skin that changed colors like a chameleon. Its claws could slice through steel, and its teeth were longer than kitchen knives. The humans called them Shadow Mosh. Elf wore a uniform that sparkled with strange symbols. She moved with the confidence of someone in charge. Other elves followed her orders as she pointed at different cages behind. The elves stood even stranger beings. These aliens had gray skin and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. The humans had never seen their kind before. Melissa adjusted her scope and watched as the gray aliens attached small devices to the Shadow Moss heads. The creatures fought against the restraints, but the aliens worked with practiced skill. Soon each beast had a blue glowing implant behind its skull. The silver-haired elf spoke to one of the gray aliens in a language that sounded like wind chimes mixed with static. Melissa could not understand the words, but she could see the excitement in their movements. They were planning something terrible. The first test began when they released one of the modified Shadow Moss into a small enclosure. The creature moved differently now. Its natural hunting patterns were gone, replaced by mechanical precision. It followed commands transmitted through the implant without hesitation. Melissa watched in horror as they showed the beast images of human settlements. The Shadow Maw responded with immediate aggression when it saw pictures of people wearing Colonial Defense Force uniforms. The neural implant was turning apex predators into weapons programmed to hunt humans. She began recording everything through her scope. The elves tested 3 more creatures, and each one showed the same unnatural obedience. The gray aliens seemed pleased with the results, while the elves took detailed notes as the aliens prepared to move their operation. Melissa noticed something they had missed. Deep scratches marked the trees around their camp. The marks were too high and too wide to come from Shadow Moss. Something much larger had been watching the aliens work. The scratches were fresh, and they led deeper into the forest toward the mountain caves, where Melissa had detected unusual seismic activity. She had always assumed the readings came from underground water or shifting rock. Now she wondered if something else lived in those dark spaces. Alien camp began packing their equipment as the 3 moons rose above the forest. The elves loaded the modified Shadow Maws into transport vehicles, while the gray aliens dismantled their neural programming devices. Melissa knew she had to warn the human colonies, but she also felt curious about the scratches in the trees. Her scientific training told her to investigate, while her survival instinct screamed danger. She made her choice and began following the scratch marks deeper into the forest. Her equipment detected elevated bioelectric readings as she moved closer to the mountain caves. The readings were unlike anything in her database. The scratches led to a clearing where the ground was covered with massive paw prints. Each print was 3 times larger than a Shadow Maw track, and they were everywhere. Some prints had dried blood around the edges, but the blood was not red like human blood or green like Shadow Maw blood. It was silver. In the center of the clearing stood a tree that had been stripped of bark in a perfect spiral pattern. The damage was too precise for claws and too artistic for random animal behavior. Something intelligent had marked this tree as territory. Melissa collected samples of the silver blood and photographed the paw prints. Her scanner detected trace amounts of unknown proteins and metals that should not exist in biological tissue. Whatever made these marks was not like any creature in the colonial databases. She worked the forest around her, grew quiet. Even the night insects stopped their chirping. The silence felt heavy and watchful, like something massive was studying her from the shadows. Her equipment suddenly detected multiple bioelectric signatures approaching from all directions. The readings were enormous and moving with coordinated precision. Melissa realized she was surrounded by creatures that could crush her without effort. She stood perfectly still and waited. The first creature emerged from the darkness between the trees, and Melissa forgot how to breathe. It stood 20 feet tall, at the shoulder, with silver fur that seemed to glow in the moonlight. Its eyes were intelligent and ancient, holding a wisdom that spoke of centuries of survival. The creature was clearly an apex predator, but it moved with gentle caution around the small human scientists. More creatures emerged from the forest surrounding the clearing. Melissa counted at least a dozen of the massive beings. Each one was unique in size and coloring, but all shared the same intelligent gaze. They watched her with curiosity rather than hunger. The largest creature approached slowly and lowered its enormous head to her level. Its breath was warm and smelled like pine forests and mountain snow when it sniffed her. Equipment. The creature made a sound like distant thunder that seemed almost friendly. Melissa realized these creatures had been watching the alien camp just as she had been. The scratch marks and territorial signs were not random, they were deliberate. Warnings left for any who might threaten their domain. Creatures began moving away from the clearing, but the largest one turned back to look at Melissa one more time. Its message was clear. Without words, the aliens thought they understood apex predators, but they had only found the smaller ones. As the massive beings disappeared into the forest, Melissa understood the truth. The elves and their gray allies believed they had weaponized the most dangerous creatures on Kepler 442b. They were wrong. The real apex predators had been watching and waiting. She returned to her research station with recordings that would change everything. The aliens had studied shadow maws to defeat humans, but humans had been living alongside something far more dangerous, something that chose to protect rather than destroy. Melissa began composing her report to the Colonial Defense Force. As dawn broke over the forest, the elves thought they held the advantage with their mind-controlled beasts. They had no idea what was coming. Captain Lisa Morgan read the report 3 times before believing it. The images from Dr. Melissa Carter showed elves working with unknown gray aliens to weaponize local predators against human colonies. The colonial ship New Frontier maintained orbit around 6 different worlds where humans had built settlements. Each world had its own dangerous wildlife, and each colony had learned to coexist with their local predators. Lisa called an emergency meeting with all colony administrators. The holographic display showed the faces of brave men and women who had chosen to live on the frontier worlds. Their expressions grew grim as she shared Melissa's findings. Amy Peterson administered the forest colony on New Eden. She listened to the briefing while watching her security feeds. 3 Shedama attacks had already hit the outer settlements. The creatures moved with unnatural coordination that chilled her to the bone. Kate Williams served as security chief for New Eden, and she had fought before these attacks. Felt different. The beasts showed tactical awareness beyond their natural intelligence. They avoided traps that should have worked, and attacked in patterns that seemed almost military. In the industrial world of Ironhold, Director Nicole Hayes reported similar incidents. Her mining operations had detected unusual seismic activity, followed by coordinated predator attacks. The miners were tough people, but even they seemed shaken by the strange behavior. The first major assault came at dawn when Amy Peterson was reviewing overnight security reports. Alarms began screaming across New Eden as motion sensors detected multiple large signatures approaching from the forest. Through the security cameras, Amy watched a pack of 12 shadow maws emerge from the tree line. Each creature had a blue glowing implant behind its skull that pulsed with electronic light. The beasts moved in perfect formation, like soldiers rather than wild animals. Kate Williams coordinated the defense from the command center. She deployed security teams to strategic positions, while civilians evacuated to reinforced shelters. The colony had prepared for predator attacks, but not for this level of coordination. The shadow maws struck the perimeter fence with precise timing. Each beast attacked a different section, simultaneously overwhelming the automated defenses. Their claws sliced through reinforced barriers like paper, while their adaptive camouflage made targeting difficult human defenders. Fought back with plasma rifles and sonic deterrents, the weapons that normally scattered wild predators barely slowed these modified creatures. The neural implants seemed to override their natural fear responses. During the battle, Amy noticed something strange in the forest beyond the attacking shadow moths. The local wildlife was fleeing deeper into the mountain's ironbark. Bears that normally ignored human activity were abandoning their territory. The massive bears stood 12 feet tall and had armor-like hide that could deflect small arms fire. They feared very little on New Eden, but now they ran as if something had terrified them. Beyond reason, Kate managed to drive off the shadow moths using concentrated fire from multiple teams. The creatures retreated in the same coordinated fashion they had attacked, showing none of the chaotic behavior of wounded animals high above the planet. An elven observation ship recorded every moment of the battle. Dr. Sylvana Starweaver analyzed the human response patterns with scientific fascination. The colonists had adapted faster than her models predicted. The humans showed unusual familiarity with predator behavior, as if they had encountered similar threats before. Their defensive tactics focused on disruption rather than destruction, which puzzled the elven researcher Sylvana. Reported her findings to Commander Lirelei Moonwhisper, who grew frustrated with the slow progress. Despite successful raids, human colonies continued to resist and adapt. The neural control systems needed enhancement. The research vessel Cosmic Dawn Dr. Rachel Brooks studied unusual biosignatures detected by colonial sensors. Her equipment had identified massive life forms in the mountain regions of several worlds. The readings showed creatures that dwarfed the shadow moths in size and bioelectric output. Rachel had never seen anything like them in the colonial database. These unknown predators seemed to avoid human settlements, but lived surprisingly close to them. She compiled her data and forwarded it to Captain Morgan with a priority flag. The report suggested that humans were not alone on these worlds. Something much larger was sharing their space back. On New Eden, Amy Peterson walked the damaged perimeter fence with Kate Williams. The Shadow Maw attack had been repelled, but at significant cost. Several defenders were injured, and the outer sensors were destroyed. As they surveyed the damage, Amy heard a low rumbling sound from the mountains. The noise was too deep. 4 human vocal cords, and too rhythmic for geological activity. Something was calling from the high peaks. Kate recognized the sound from her years on the frontier. The mountain caves housed creatures that the colonists rarely saw, but always respected. The sounds had become more frequent since the Shadow Maw attacks began that evening. Amy received reports from other settlements across New Eden. The pattern was consistent. Shadow Maw attacks followed by strange sounds from the wilderness, and signs of larger predators moving through the forests. On Ironhold, Nicole Hayes faced her own crisis as enhanced Shadow Maws struck the main mining facility. The creatures had grown larger and more aggressive since the first attacks, suggesting the aliens were improving their modifications. Her chief engineer, Maria Santos, worked around the clock to reinforce their defensive systems. The mining equipment doubled as weapons, but even industrial lasers struggled against the modified predators. The attacks revealed a disturbing truth: the aliens were learning from each engagement and adapting their creatures accordingly. What started as random raids was becoming a systematic campaign. Captain Morgan coordinated defensive strategies across multiple worlds, but she knew the humans were fighting a reactive battle. The aliens held the initiative, and their creatures grew more dangerous with each attack. Rachel Brooks made a breakthrough when she correlated seismic data from all affected worlds. The massive biosignatures moved in response to the Shadow Maw attacks, as if the unknown creatures were monitoring the situation. Her analysis suggested intelligence and coordination among the larger predators. They were not random animals, but organized entities with their own agenda. The question was whether they saw humans as allies or threats. On the elven ship Lirelei, Moonwhisper reviewed battle reports with growing concern. The humans adapted too quickly and showed tactical knowledge that should not exist. The resistance patterns suggested experience with similar threats. Narelle Zexai of the Gray Aliens proposed increasing the intensity of neural modifications. The next generation of Shadows would be larger, more aggressive, and completely immune to sonic deterrence. As the second wave of attacks began, Amy Peterson made a disturbing discovery. Scratches around the colony perimeter matched the marks Melissa Carter had found near the alien camp. Something had been watching the battles the scratches lead toward, the mountains where the rumbling sounds originated. Amy realized the humans were not the only ones studying their enemies. The real apex predators were learning too. Commander Lirale Moonwhisper stood in the laboratory aboard the Alvin science vessel, Starlight's Edge, watching Dr. Sylvana Starweaver modify another batch of Shatamas. The creatures were larger now with enhanced muscle density and improved neural implants. The first generation of weaponized predators had achieved mixed results against human colonies, despite successful raids. The humans continued to adapt and resist their attacks with disturbing efficiency. Sylvana worked with focused intensity. As she implanted the new control devices, each modification pushed the Shadowmaws beyond their natural limits, creating apex predators that existed solely to hunt humans. The creatures now measured 15 feet in length, with claws that could pierce. Starship hull plating their nervous systems had been rewired to eliminate fear and pain, while maintaining their deadly hunting instincts. General Zexai observed the modifications with cold satisfaction. The Gray Alien commander believed overwhelming force would succeed where subtlety had failed. His species had conquered dozens of worlds, using similar biological weapons. On the heavily fortified mining world of Ironhold director Nicole Hayes prepared for what intelligence suggested would be the largest coordinated attack yet. The colony housed 15,000 people, who depended on the mineral extraction operations chief. Engineer Maria Santos had spent weeks reinforcing their defensive systems. Industrial mining lasers were repositioned to create overlapping fields of fire, while sonic barriers protected the most vulnerable areas. The mining tunnels provided natural shelter, but also created blind spots where enhanced predators could approach undetected. Nicole ordered constant patrols through the underground passages. The colony prepared for siege. Unusual seismic readings came from the mountain peaks above the settlement. The readings suggested massive movement, but no geological activity that could explain the pattern. Security Chief Brenda Cook analyzed the seismic data and found disturbing correlations. The underground vibrations matched the timing of previous Shadowmaw attacks, as if something was responding to the alien weapons. The enhanced Shadowmaws struck Ironhole. At midnight, when the defensive crews were rotating shifts, 40 modified creatures attacked, simultaneously from multiple directions, with tactical precision that defied natural behavior. The beasts moved like liquid death through the darkness there. Enhanced camouflage, making them nearly invisible, until they struck. Their improved claws sliced through defensive barriers that had previously stopped their predecessors. Human defenders responded with concentrated firepower, but the enhanced creatures showed no fear of injury. Several Shadowmaws continued attacking even with severe wounds that should have been fatal. Maria Santos coordinated the industrial defenses, while Nicole Hayes managed civilian evacuations. The mining lasers carved through, attacking predators, but more creatures kept coming from the surrounding wilderness. During the height of the battle, something unexpected happened. The enhanced Shadowmaws suddenly stopped their assault, their neural implants beginning to spark and smoke. The creatures seemed confused as their artificial programming conflicted with natural instincts. From the mountain caves above the colony came a sound that made even the modified predators retreat in primal terror. A low rumbling growl echoed through the valleys, carrying undertones of ancient power. The attacking Shadowmaws abandoned their coordinated assault and fled toward the forest, their enhanced programming unable to override millions of years of evolutionary fear responses. Through the chaos emerged creatures that defied classification. Massive forms descended from the mountain peaks, moving with surprising grace despite their enormous size. Each beast stood 20 feet tall, with silver fur that seemed to glow. Human riders sat astride the giant creatures, moving with casual confidence through the battlefield. Colony defender Emma Parker dismounted from her companion and approached the retreating shadow maws without visible concern. The massive creature she had been riding lowered its head to nuzzle her shoulder with obvious affection. Emma scratched behind its ears as if it were an oversized pet, rather than an apex predator capable of crushing tanks. More riders emerged from the mountain caves, each partnered with one of the giant predators. The beasts showed no aggression toward humans, but their presence sent the modified shadow maws fleeing in panic. Sylvana Starweaver watched the battle through orbital sensors and could not believe the readings. Her instruments detected bioelectric signatures that dwarfed anything in the xenobiology database. The creatures Emma and her companions rode generated natural electromagnetic fields that interfered with the neural control implants. The were not retreating from fear, but from technological malfunctionally. Moonwhisper stared at the sensor readings in shock. The humans had not just been surviving on these worlds, they had been building relationships with predators that made look like small pets. The massive creatures moved with obvious intelligence and coordination, but they followed human guidance rather than technological control. The bond between rider and mount appeared to be based on mutual respect rather than domination. General Zexai refused to accept the evidence and ordered increased neural modifications for the remaining shadow maws. The gray alien commander believed superior technology could overcome any biological partnership on Ironhold. Emma Parker examined the damaged neural implants recovered from fleeing shadow maws. The devices were sophisticated, but relied on electromagnetic manipulation that the Titan wolves naturally disrupted. She reported her findings to Nicole Hayes, who forwarded them to Captain Morgan. Aboard the New Frontier, the intelligence revealed fundamental flaws in the alien strategy. The enhanced shadow maws represented impressive biotechnology, but they were still artificial constructs, dependent on external control. The Titan wolves were genuine apex predators, with millions of years of evolutionary refinement back. Aboard the Starlight's Edge, Sylvana struggled to understand how humans had achieved bonds with creatures that even elven magic could not influence. Her research had focused on control and domination, while humans had somehow achieved cooperation. The doctor began reviewing colonial records and discovered scattered reports of unusual wildlife behavior near human settlements. Predators that should have been territorial and aggressive instead showed signs of partnership. On New Eden, Amy Peterson organized joint patrols between human security teams and local ironbark bears. The massive creatures had emerged from their mountain refuges and seemed willing to work alongside the colonists. The bears moved through the forest with human handlers searching for hidden shadow maw breeding sites. Their natural senses could detect the modified creatures long before technological scanners. Similar partnerships were forming on other worlds as humans revealed relationships with apex predators that had been developing for years. The aliens had studied their enemies as competitors rather than collaborators. Kate Williams led a mixed patrol of humans and iron bears through the contested forest zone. The bears communicated through low-frequency sounds that humans could feel but not hear. When they encountered a group of enhanced shadow maws, the bears attacked with coordination that matched military precision. Their natural armor deflected claw strikes, while their massive strength overwhelmed the modified predators. The sight of apex predators fighting alongside humans, rather than against them, sent shockwaves through the alien command structure. Lirale began to question everything she thought she knew about human nature. Dr. Rachel Brooks compiled intelligence from across the colonial network and discovered the scope of human scrubber partnerships. Void Krakens worked with asteroid miners while plasma bears helped maintain fusion reactors. The evidence suggested that humans had spent decades building these relationships, while aliens focused on conquest and control. The strategy revealed a fundamental difference in how each species approached survival challenges. Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated emergency communications across the colonial network as reports flooded in from settlement after settlement. The truth was spreading faster than wildfire, and it changed everything. Humans had not just been surviving. On frontier worlds, they had been quietly building partnerships with apex predators that dwarfed anything the aliens had weaponized. What the elves and gray aliens saw as obstacles, humans had approached as potential friends. On the volcanic world of Salamander's Rest, geologist Dr. Chloe Bennett welcomed Morgan's inspection team with barely contained excitement. Her research station sat on the rim of an active volcano, where temperatures reached lethal levels for most life forms. Chloe led the visitors to a massive cavern where the heat was almost unbearable. Through the shimmering air they saw her research partner, a crystal drake that measured 20 feet from nose to tail. The creature's hide sparkled with embedded minerals, while its breath could melt starship hulls in seconds. Despite its terrifying appearance, the drake responded to Chloe's voice commands with obvious affection. She had named the creature Sparkles, much to the amusement of visiting children, who treated the deadly predator like an enormous friendly pet. The drake helped with geological surveys by accessing lava tubes too dangerous for humans. Lisa watched in amazement as Chloe collected mineral samples from areas where the drake's breath had exposed new rock formations. The partnership had revolutionized volcanic research while providing the drake with a steady food source. Dr. Rachel Brooks continued compiling her comprehensive report as more colonies revealed their predator partnerships. The scope was staggering and represented decades of careful relationship building. On the asteroid mining station, Void's Edge workers partnered with Void Krakens that navigated the dangerous debris fields with supernatural grace. The massive creatures could sense gravitational anomalies that would destroy human ships. The Krakens lived in the cold vacuum of space, but had learned to recognize human vessels and protect them from asteroid impacts. Their tentacles could manipulate objects with precision that exceeded robotic systems. Mining supervisor Janet Price explained how the partnership had developed over 10 years of patient contact. The Krakens were intelligent and curious creatures that had approached human operations rather than fleeing from them. On the industrial world of Forge, Prime plasma technician Laura Hayes worked alongside plasma bears that helped maintain the fusion reactors powering the manufacturing facilities. That bears naturally generated controlled plasma fields that allowed them to work in environments that would kill humans instantly. Their partnership had improved reactor efficiency by 40%, while reducing maintenance costs. Shit's revelation painted the same picture. Humans had approached dangerous predators with curiosity and respect rather than fear and violence. The strategy had created powerful alliances that the aliens never anticipated. Meanwhile, Commander Lirelei Moonwhisper watched her carefully planned offensive crumble as human colonies transitioned from defensive to offensive operations. The mind-controlled shadow maws were being systematically hunted down. Her strategic advantage had evaporated overnight as humans revealed capabilities that defied every tactical calculation. The Elven commander realized they had made a fundamental error in understanding human nature. General Zexai refused to accept defeat and ordered the deployment of all remaining enhanced Shadowmaws. In a final desperate assault, his gray alien forces would overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. On New Eden, Amy Peterson organized the first major joint operation between human colonists and their predator allies. As modified Shadowmaws attacked the settlement, they faced not just human defenders, but ironbark bears fighting alongside their partners. The bears moved with tactical precision that matched any military unit. Their natural armor deflected claw strikes, while their massive strength crushed enhanced predators with devastating efficiency. Security Chief Kate Williams coordinated the mixed human-bear teams through encrypted communications. The bears responded to human voice commands, but also demonstrated independent tactical thinking. Though battle turned when young colonist Sophie Turner arrived, riding a juvenile Titan wolf that still stood 12 feet tall at the shoulder. The 16-year-old girl moved through the combat zone with casual confidence. Her presence alongside an apex predator sent psychological shockwaves through the alien observation teams. The sight of a human teenager commanding a creature that could crush main battle tanks, defied their understanding. Sophie directed her wolf companion Thunder through the battlefield with simple hand gestures. The massive predator responded instantly, while showing obvious protective instincts toward its young rider. The elven scientists watching from orbit could not comprehend how humans achieved such bonds with creatures that resisted all technological control attempts. Their research had focused on domination, while humans had chosen cooperation. Darsilvana Starweaver began emergency analysis of human-predator relationships as her strategic models collapsed. The data suggested partnerships based on mutual benefit, rather than technological subjugation. On Ironhold, Emma Parker led combined human Titan wolf patrols through the mountain regions hunting for hidden alien facilities. Her wolf companion, Thunder, had been her partner for 3 years. The massive predator possessed senses that could detect electromagnetic signatures from orbital distances. Thunder had located 17 hidden surveillance posts that human technology had missed. Similar partnerships were emerging across human space as colonies revealed decades of careful relationship building. The aliens had studied humans as competitors, while humans had approached aliens as potential partners. Mining engineer Carol Davis worked with a phase tiger that could slip between dimensional boundaries to scout dangerous areas. The massive feline existed partially outside normal space-time. The tiger had learned to recognize human technology and could phase through solid matter to investigate alien installations without being detected. Its reports had prevented dozens of ambush attacks. Agricultural specialist Diana Foster partnered with Harmony Wisps that could accelerate plant growth and detect soil contamination. The ethereal creatures improved crop yields while maintaining ecological balance. Partnership revealed the same pattern. Humans had approached deadly predators with patience and respect, building relationships based on mutual advantage rather than forced control. Captain Morgan compiled intelligence reports that painted a picture of human colonial strategy that impressed even veteran military commanders. The partnerships represented asymmetric warfare on a galactic scale. Dr. Rachel Brooks calculated that human-predator alliances gave the colony's defensive capabilities equivalent to a fleet of battleships. The creatures required no fuel or maintenance, while providing loyalty that technology could not match. The revelation reached its peak when agricultural world Haven Prime revealed their partnership with the most dangerous predator yet, discovered garden guardians that could manipulate planetary weather patterns. The massive plant-like creatures could generate storms or drought conditions across entire continents, but had learned to work with human farmers to optimize growing conditions. Farm Administrator Helen Wright explained how the Guardians had approached human settlements during their first growing season. The creatures had demonstrated their abilities by ending a drought that threatened the colonial food supply. The partnership had transformed Haven Prime into the most productive agricultural world in human space, while providing the Guardians with protection from asteroid impacts and spaceborne parasites. As reports continued flooding in Lyra, Moonwhisper realized the true scope of human capabilities. The Predator partnerships represented more than tactical advantages. They demonstrated a completely different approach to survival. Where aliens had seen threats to overcome, humans had seen opportunities for cooperation. The strategy had created alliances that spanned multiple worlds and dozens of apex predator species. Final revelation came when Deep Space Monitoring Station reported contact with ancient space leviathans that had been feeding on asteroid minerals near the system. Young researcher Zoe Adams had been studying the kilometer-long creatures for 2 years. The leviathans possessed intelligence that spanned geological ages, but had shown curiosity about human activities rather than hostility. Their bioelectric fields could disable entire starfleets, while their knowledge of hyperspace was unmatched. General Zexhai received these reports with growing desperation as his enhanced Shadow Maw forces faced extinction at the hands of human-predator partnerships. His technological superiority meant nothing against creatures that had evolved for millions of years. The boarding action against the Elven science vessel Starlight's Edge began at dawn when Captain Lisa Morgan led her assault teams through the docking ports. She expected to find warriors defending their ship instead. The corridors filled with scientists and researchers who seemed more confused than hostile. Dr. Sylvana Starweaver surrendered immediately and requested permission to speak with the human xenobiologist about predator behavior. Lisa found herself in the strange position of accepting surrender from enemies who wanted to understand why their superior technology had failed so completely against human colonial defenses. The Elven Research Bay contained dozens of modified shadow maws and containment fields along with detailed studies of their enhanced capabilities. The creatures showed signs of stress from their artificial modifications. Dr. Melissa Carter joined the boarding party as diplomatic xenobiologist and found herself face to face with scientists who had spent months trying to weaponize apex predators against human settlements. Sylvana asked a question that had haunted her since the first failed attacks. How had humans achieved control over creatures that resisted even the most advanced neural manipulation technology? Melissa studied the containment systems and saw the fundamental flaw in the alien approach. The elves had tried to dominate predators through technological force, while humans had chosen to understand them as living beings. She gestured toward the captured shadow maws and explained the crucial difference. You studied them as weapons, we studied them as neighbors. The elves had imposed artificial behaviors, while humans had worked with natural instincts. The revelation came when Commander Lirale Moonwhisper was brought face to face with Emma Parker and her Titan Wolf companion. Thunder in the ship's main hangar. Betha massive predator should have terrified any rational being, but instead, Thunder approached the elven commander with obvious curiosity. The wolf sniffed Lirale carefully before settling down for a nap beside her feet. Tama explained the human philosophy that had created these impossible partnerships. Every world humans settled contained something that could easily kill them, but instead of fighting or controlling these creatures, humans had asked different questions. What did the predators need? What did they want most? Apex predators were simply large, dangerous animals, looking for food, territory, and companionship. Humans could provide all three things in exchange for cooperation. The elves had approached predators as problems to solve, while humans had seen them as potential partners. The difference in philosophy had created completely different outcomes. Sylvana began documenting the human approach with scientific fascination. Her research had focused on neural control and behavioral modification, while humans had used environmental psychology and behavioral partnerships. Demonstrated the bond by responding to Emma's simple voice commands, but also showing independent decision-making. The wolf protected its human partner while maintaining its natural predator instincts. Larry realized that elven assumptions about human weakness had blinded them to human strengths. The colonial strategy revealed patience and wisdom that her people had completely missed. The climactic moment arrived when General Zexai attempted to activate a doomsday device that would poison the entire star system rather than accept defeat. His gray alien forces refused to admit their strategy had failed. The device began generating toxic radiation that would sterilize every planet in the system. Within hours, Zexai believed that destroying everything was preferable to allowing humans to demonstrate superior survival strategies. His plan backfired spectacularly when the device's massive energy signature attracted attention from the edge of the star system. Something enormous began moving toward the inner planets at incredible speed. Through the observation ports, they watched a creature that defied comprehension approach the alien fleet. A space leviathan measuring over 1 kilometer in length moved through the void with graceful purpose. Ancient being possessed intelligence that spanned geological ages and bioelectric fields that could disable entire star fleets. Yet it approached the human vessels with obvious familiarity rather than hostility. Young researcher Zoe Adams floated near the Leviathan in a simple EVA suit, conducting what appeared to be a routine health examination of the massive creature. Her casual confidence stunned the alien observers. The Leviathan's song resonated through hyperspace as it investigated the gray alien ships with gentle curiosity. The creature's presence disrupted the doomsday device and rendered the alien weapon systems inoperative. Lieutenant Commander Helen Wright broadcast a message to all alien vessels from the human fleet. Communications center, surrender now, or we will have to call in the really big ones. The threat was delivered with casual humor that made it even more terrifying. The humans had partnerships with creatures that could destroy star systems, but chose to use them for protection rather than conquest. General Zexhai surrendered immediately as his doomsday device became a useless sculpture under the Leviathan's bioelectric interference. The gray aliens had exhausted their technological advantage. Months later, former enemies worked together in joint research facilities. Dr. Sylvanus de Weaver collaborated with human scientists to study predator behavior through partnership rather than domination. Her elven longevity combined with human adaptability proved to be an effective research combination. The former adversaries discovered that cooperation produced better scientific results than competition. Lately, Moonwhisper served as ambassador to a new interspecies council, where humans had gained respect not for their weapons or technology, but for their unprecedented ability to turn dangerous creatures into allies. The transformed political landscape reflected human values of cooperation over domination. Species that had once viewed humans as weak prey began seeking partnerships and mutual defense agreements. The story concluded with a scene that perfectly captured the new reality. Human children played fetch with baby shadow moths in peaceful colony gardens, while their parents discussed trade agreements with reformed elven diplomats. In the background, adult Titan wolves watched protectively over the mixed species gathering. Their presence guaranteed security while demonstrating the power of friendship over force. Somewhere in the distance, a space leviathan's song welcomed new ships to the star system. The ancient creatures served as both guardian and symbol of human diplomatic success. Former research enemies had become collaborative partners, as elves learned human relationship building techniques while humans benefited from elven scientific knowledge and extended lifespans. The transformation extended beyond simple peace treaties. Human predator partnerships had created a new model for interspecies relations based on mutual benefit rather than conquest. Sophie Turner continued riding her Titan wolf thunder through the colony streets, but now elven children joined her on smaller predators as part of cultural exchange programs. Dr. Chloe Bennett's Crystal Drake Sparkles had become something of a celebrity as alien visitors marveled at the impossible friendship between human scientist and volcanic predator. The mining operations expanded as void krakens helped both human and alien ships navigate dangerous asteroid fields safely. The creatures showed no favoritism but protected all vessels equally. Agricultural yields increased across multiple worlds as different species learned to work with planetary ecosystems rather than dominating them. Human partnership models proved superior to traditional colonial techniques. The new Interspecies Council established protocols for first contact based on human-predator partnership principles. Future encounters would emphasize understanding and cooperation over technological dominance. Captain Lisa Morgan retired from military service to become director of the Predator Partnership Institute, where former enemies learned human techniques for building relationships with dangerous wildlife. The Institute's motto captured the revolution in thinking that had prevented galactic war. When you cannot defeat them, befriend them. When you cannot control them, understand them. There, Melissa Carter published her research on human predator psychology, which became required reading for all interspecies diplomats. The paper revolutionized xenobiology by focusing on cooperation over control. The galaxy had learned that humans possessed a unique gift for turning enemies into allies and weapons into partners. The lesson would reshape interspecies relations for generations to come.